This is What I Teach, presented by Accelerating Evolution, LLC. Today's discussion will be on ADD. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hi, once again, I'm Dr. Anthony Raimondo. This is What I Teach, presented by Accelerating Evolution, LLC. And today's topic for discussion is ADD. Now, if you were to go on YouTube or Google or use some other search engine, you may find a lot of information stating that ADD or ADHD is a result of a chemical imbalance in the brain, and that the way to correct this chemical imbalance is to use different pharmaceuticals, different drugs like Ritalin. Now, when we look at that, or when we examine what that's saying, is that it's the hypothesis or the theory, the philosophy that chemical imbalances or biochemical factors in the brain govern behavior. So that if one type of chemical imbalance in the brain is causing ADD, then would it be safe to say that another chemical imbalance in the brain causes an individual to steal or murder or to rape? I don't think so. I don't think that, an individual's biochemical basis is what is the cause for our behavior. I'm not saying that we won't find a biochemical deficiency or in a human being who is having some form of behavioral difficulty. My hypothesis, however, is that it's not so much the chemicals that create the behavior, but that our thoughts are what creates the chemical imbalance, which in turn creates a behavior, but the chemical imbalance is really an offshoot of the thought and the behavior. It's the byproduct, not the cause, not the product. Okay, now let's look at it from a standpoint of a computer. From a computer standpoint, it would be safe to say that if I was to do something to the wiring, the computer's not going to function, or it may not function well because there's a short somewhere, and that the software cannot repair it, nor can the software software, on the other hand, if we get a virus into our computer, we can damage it. So that's a thought, right? If I'm a hacker and I send you a virus, it's as if I'm sending you a thought, which then in turn damaged the computer. So it is possible for something to happen in the software to damage the computer. However, once a hard drive is damaged, it's not likely that the software could repair the damage in the hardware, though in certain situations it can. In the human process, in the human computer, in the human mechanism, the same thing is essentially true, only even greater. And that being that if my software isn't working properly, it's going to have an effect on my hardware. If the software isn't functioning properly, it's going to have an effect on my hardware. Now we know that the hardware is constantly changing. Unlike in a computer, you know, if you started out like I did with a 286, well, you can't make a 286. A 286 won't change itself and become a 386 or a 486 or a Pentel 1, 2, whatever. However, human beings do that from the time they're babies to the elderly. They're constantly biologically, their mechanism, the machinery is changing. So we have the capability that the consciousness can alter the wiring. So when we look at that, what we're saying here is that, right, the way I think can cure or change ADD or some other epilepsy or whatever the case may be, some other form of disorder that's taking place in the brain. We can do that by changing the way we think. Now let's go back and look at the ADD. What's going on in ADD? Now, attention deficit disorder. The implication with that title is saying attention deficit. That means I cannot hold an attention, I can't hold focus on a thought. I'm incapable of doing that. Well, that's not entirely true, because I'm really giving my attention to everything in the room. But why? Why am I giving my attention to everything in the room? Why am I looking at everything? Why is everything so important to me? Well, let's look at the food chain. Let's look at a rabbit. Now a rabbit's out in the field somewhere and it's gnawing on a carrot. While it's gnawing on a carrot, though, it knows that it's part of the food chain and that there's something higher up on that food chain that eats it, a wolf or a coyote. So here it is, it's gnawing on that carrot. In the meantime, it's looking all over the place. And why? Why is it while it's eating, it's looking all over the place? Its eyes are aware of everything that's going on because it knows at any moment a wolf could attack and eat it. Now what does this have to do with a human being? Well, a similar situation. Let's suppose for a moment that a child, very early, experiences some form of trauma. Something that caused a trauma to that child, whether a loud noise, whether somebody touching it a little roughly, but some form of trauma. And let's suppose now that from that moment on, that memory of that trauma is right there in the brain. And it's constantly affecting a portion of our brain that deals with feelings. You see, the brain is made up of 4 parts, and I'm going to use the terminologies, a different set of terminologies, or a more older terminology, in that the base of the brain is what was once referred to as the reptilian portion of the brain, because that's the brain that resembles more like reptiles and could be understood as early development in the human process in evolution. Now in this portion of the brain only has basically a limited amount of functions, and that is your bodily function, eating, breathing, fornicating, multiplication, and dealing with danger. We're either going to run or we're going to fight. Flight or fight. So we're on the lookout for danger. We're constantly on the lookout for danger. We're either going to run or we're going to stand put. Well, if a human being was out in the woods and he heard a coyote or a wolf, he might decide to run from fear. His legs might say, it's time to get out of here, and take off. On the other hand, somebody might offend them and they might want to punch him in the face. But that's coming from that portion of the brain. Now let's go up a little further. In the next portion of the development of the brain is the mammalian, dealing with mammals. Now mammals have a sense of emotion. You can see that in a dog when it wags its tail. So now, it's there that we feel emotion. Now, if I begin to fear all the time, or I have a sense of fear in my memory, if I have a sense of fear going on in my body, I'm likely to be looking at fear all the time, that there might be a predator on the loose, and I need to know if I'm going to run or fight. Now, again, humans have a more developed brain, and now we're looking at the cognitive portion, where we think, where we reason. So we have this complex mechanism where we're feeling some form of fear, and now our minds begins to look at why am I feeling this way? What's wrong? Is there something in the room that I need to be aware of? Is there a potential for fire? What's going on? You see, I'm beginning to give everything in that room, everything in that environment, my attention because of a fear factor. I'm looking out for a predator. I'm looking for something that's going to cause me pain, that's going to hurt me. This is what's going on in an individual with ADD. Now, if I was at war and my buddy, my soldier buddy, had ADD, I'd be thanking God, because he's most likely going to find the enemy before I do. We know that individuals with ADD function very well in high-risk areas. Why? Because the fear factor is now present. They know where the danger is, and they're able to focus on a means of getting out, on a means of getting away from the danger. They've recognized the threat, and now they're going to react and work on the solution. So what is the solution for children and adults with ADD and possibly ADHD? The solution is, and I've done this with children as a special ed teacher in Newark, New Jersey, by teaching them how to meditate, by having them learn how to calm their bodies down, learning how to calm that sense of emotion and bring it to peace. Now, once that sense of emotion comes to a point of peace, the idea of a threat or a predator is eliminated. Now, once that's eliminated, I no longer have the need to look around the room to see if there's any danger about to happen. If there's anything that's going to hurt me, it's been eliminated, because now we're at peace. We're looking at it from the point that the mind controls the brain, which creates the biochemical situation, which is a product of what the conscious mind was doing, what the subconscious mind was doing, and not the other way around. I hope this information was beneficial to you. I hope that if anybody who's listening that has ADHD or ADD, you might want to consider learning how to meditate. You could pick up a copy of my book, Return to Eden. There's lots of exercises there. Also on my YouTube channel, there's a hyperlink for means of getting that book, using the exercises. However, many of the exercises that are in the book are already part of my video collection here on YouTube. They're there for your use. Use them, and hopefully you'll find a sense of peace and be able to deal with your condition. Maybe you know somebody, a friend, a family member who's suffering from that condition. Point them in the right direction. They have nothing to lose by doing the meditations, but everything to gain. This has been What I Teach, sponsored by Accelerating Evolution LLC, and I'm Dr. Anthony Raimondo. And I hope you become a subscriber and tune in and view our other videos and the ones that we're going to produce in the future. Once again, thank you very much, and God bless.